Kane's childhood was an absolute mess, okay? The Big Red Machine was only born because a studly 19-year-old virgin apprentice at the family funeral home called Paul Bearer was taken by the Undertaker's mother on the kitchen floor. She was a moaning and a groaning and a screaming, said Paul. Why did Paul have to say that? With the turmoil of that happening with your own mother involved, leaving your brain feeling like roadkill, imagine having your brother intentionally commit arson at your family's funeral home, killing your mother and his father in the process, and having all of that blamed on you for a few decades, only then for your brother to appear on WWE Raw in 1998 and admit to doing the entire thing. The Undertaker is such a naughty boy. On top of that, imagine having your face scarred in the fire your brother intentionally caused and thinking it was burned so badly you had to cover your face just to enter McDonald's and not have all of the children crying just because of your ugly mug. And on top of all of that, imagine making it all the way through until 2003 and feeling the need to create this superhero persona in your own mind that needed to wear a mask and sometimes a rather fetching cape to complete some rather sick drip no cap kids, you know what I'm talking about? Only to realize your physical scars had healed and you've been thinking you're an ugly bastard because of some psychological ones instead. I like to think that Undertaker told the WWE locker room that his little brother's scars weren't even there. And that's why so many people have tried to unmask Kane down the years. Just to let his skin breathe more than anything else. Feel the rain on your skin, Kane. No one else can feel it for you. Only you can let it in, Kane. I'm Ross Tweddle from Cultaholic Wrestling, and this is Every Time Kane Was Unmasked in WWE. Join us. Unmasked by DX and the McMahons in 2000. Back in 1999, Kane and XPac were the oddball tag team that could. Sean Waltman was relatively undersized in 1990s WWF and therefore was helped by a relatively massive man for that or any time period whatsoever. Kane was humanized by XPac and was given the confidence to speak without that voice box thingy-majiggy for the first time. "Suck it," he said. Bless him. It was a wholesome relationship and their combined entrance was bad arse. However, with Triple H regaining control of DX and the prospect of Kane officially being enrolled to the group, very much a thing that many people thought could happen back then, Waltman smacked his massive friend in the dick, called him weak like Undertaker did in that 1998 Fire Admission promo, and then picked his DX bros before his big red hoe. Yes, we're going with that line. Fast forward to June of 2000, and while helping his big brother attempt to take down the McMahon-Helmsley faction, unfortunately for Kane, we arrive at the scene of the crime, the locker room. Vince McMahon promised to do something that had never been done before, so Triple H, armed with a baseball bat, Shane McMahon, X-Pac, Road Dogg, Pat Patterson, and Gerald Briscoe ambushed Kane. Struck him down with a couple of shots Babe Ruth might have been proud of, removed his mask, and Patterson took a few pictures of Kane's naked face for the family photo album. Oh, and to blackmail Kane into doing evil things for the McMahons and the Helmsleys. However, thanks to that pesky GTV, it was revealed by Patterson there was no film in the camera, so our Kane, he got away with it. Unmasked by The Undertaker at SummerSlam 2000. Undertaker and Kane got along for a bit in 2000, and then they didn't. Trouble first started to rear its ugly head at King of the Ring before Kane went full heel as Taker was taking on Chris Benoit on Raw in August. This was the show where Kane chokeslammed his big brother straight to hell. In the most comfortable looking way imaginable. Hell looks like a mattress made of pillows filled with the finest goose feathers. How luxurious. This happened a couple of short weeks after Kane himself was chokeslammed straight to hell in the most horrible way imaginable by The Big Show, thanks to an assist from Shane McMahon. With the Taker-Benoit match ending in DQ thanks to Shane and his chair, Kane made his return from the hell he was put into on SmackDown to save his brother, which he did initially before chokeslamming him twice. Not only that, but Kane stole Taker's bike. This heelish turn sent us to SummerSlam, where Taker had one famous saying on his mind: "It's a bike for a mask." That's how it goes, isn't it? Because that was his sole intention in this match. After ripping part of the mask away and busting Kane open with the ring steps, Taker took his brother down and in the process completely removed the mask from his bloodied and clearly face-painted, around the eyes at least, head. The Big Red Machine immediately left the ring, draped his hair over his face, and tried to cover the rest of it with his hand. This is the only image Little Ross had of Kane's face until he actually unmasked in 2003. It was still real to me then, damn it. Unmasked by Edge on SmackDown in 2001. We see just about as much face as we did at SummerSlam, okay, so this one counts. The final SmackDown of 2001 saw Edge defend his Intercontinental Championship against Kane. The Big Red Machine looked like he had this one in the bag until he tried to counter the Edgecution. Because Kane's head was essentially inside of Edge's armpit, the mask was inadvertently removed. And look, there it is. We see just about as much face as we did at SummerSlam 2000, so this one counts. As Kane scrambled to put the mask back on his face like it was some kind of hot potato, Edge, who wasn't even the ultimate opportunist yet, so maybe, just maybe, this is some kind of origin story. That's if we just want to forget just about everything he did in the tag team with Christian, by the way. Edge, though, he nailed a spear and escaped with the win. Unmasked by XPac in 2002. I'm starting to think that Kane and XPac were lovers rather than tag team partners in 1999, because roughly 3 years after they were together and 2 years after their first feud, they were back at it again in the aftermath of WrestleMania 18. They just couldn't leave each other alone. A brief feud between Kane and the New World Order, the poisonous WWE version that had as much venom as Vic Venom, which meant it had no venom, kicked off in March 2002 with everyone concerned drafted to Monday Night Raw. Things culminated with XPac taking on Kane in a no-holds-barred match, which ended when the Big Red Machine was lured into the backstage area. That's where Hall and Nash were able to help out their little friend with weapons. If getting smashed in the head wasn't enough, XPac straddled a laid-out Kane like he was mocking a sedated crocodile, took his mask, and then proceeded to wear it like some kind of trophy for the foreseeable future. In reality, injuries were at the center of this particular angle. Nash was kayfabe suspended so he could have time off to heal an injured bicep, while Kane himself was out of action until the August of 2002, when he returned with the look that would see out his first spell as a masked man. Unmasked by Batista in 2003. No, not that unmasking in 2003. This unmasking in 2003 took place roughly 4 months before the 2003 unmasking you're thinking of. This one took place while Kane and RVD were battling Triple H and Batista on Raw. Things were going well for Team Blaze It. You know, RVD with the 420 and Kane with the Blazing Inferno that his big brother did. Haha, lol. That was until RVD missed an assisted splash and Kane was knocked over the top rope. Upon landing on the floor, Kane was sent into the ring post by Evolution's Randy Orton, and then that was it. With RKO and Flair kinda, he was sort of doing it, but not really. Holding Kane in place, Batista took the mask and forced Kane to run away like a scalded dog. RVD would then eat the L for Team Blaze It, thanks to a Batista bomb. Unmasked by an Eric Bischoff stipulation in 2003. Hey, big boy, would you like to be my friend? No. Triple H tried to make Kane a member of Evolution in 2003, but the big man was not interested. Stone Cold Steve Austin, general manager of Raw at the time, didn't seem to be too fond of Kane back then, but always seemed to have his best interests at heart. It was sort of like Kane was the bad boy in the class at school, really, and Stone Cold was the only teacher that knew he could make something of himself in reality. How nice. This was displayed after a shocking defeat to Rene Dupree on Raw in the build to Bad Blood 2003. Austin came down to the ring and tried to make Kane angry, but that no good sorry son of a bitch wasn't having it and didn't rise to the taunts. I'm not impressed. You're lackadaisical at best. Do you still want this anymore? It was clear for all to see that Stone Cold Steve Austin just missed that 1997 until 2001 Kane. And you know what? So did I. In fact, I still do. In fact, the fact he only held that WWF title Sorry, I forgot what I was doing here for a second. Eventually, we got to the point where Stone Cold gave Kane the option to either join Evolution or have a shot at Triple H's World Heavyweight Championship. Kane, the honourable bugger, chose Championship Gold over the drinks, the ladies, and the spending hours on air making sure Ric Flair didn't do something ghastly. Eric Bischoff, the little weasel, then added the title versus mask stipulation, and we were off to the races on Raw at Madison Square Garden. And after an interference from Randy Orton, that was it. Going on 6 years of wondering what the hell the human under the mask looked like, Kane took it off, and that's what we saw. He looked like someone who had had a bad night out on the town that had ended in tears. Mascara everywhere. You know what I'm talking about? We've all been there. Of course, we also have to admit that the mask removal would signify a bit of a career revival for Kane in those early times. His overall presentation, setting Jim Ross on fire, and other dastardly doings against the likes of Shane McMahon, nut zapping aside of course, were a massive step up on the offers of the previous year or two. Unmasked by himself in 2013. Kane brought the mask back towards the end of 2011 as he was making John Cena rise above hate. After murdering Zack Ryder, losing to Cena, defeating Randy Orton at WrestleMania 28, and playing out an entire novel that involved the likes of CM Punk and AJ Lee and culminated in a massive hug with Daniel Bryan, Kane removed the mask once more in 2013. The Big Red Machine had been off our screens for some time as he filmed See No Evil 2. So it was the people who sent him away from television that were the apple of his weird little eye upon his return. Kane went straight for the Wyatt family, who carried him out of the arena a few months prior to write him off TV. The Miz was also there for the attack, which took place at Hell in a Cell. The next night on Raw, Kane cemented his position as not only a heel in the WWE, but also as a person with that massive sub-energy I've been hearing about. After defeating The Miz, who didn't look out for that, choke slam, Kane called out Stephanie McMahon. Kane accused Stephanie of abusing her authority and ruining lives. Before he said, in this day and age, that's what's best for business. The monster is yours to unleash, said Kane, who pledged his allegiance to the authority. And unleash the monster they did by putting him in a suit and labeling him Corporate Kane, the director of operations for the authority. Ah, save me. I'm so scared of that monster. Relinquishing the mask again in 2014. There's a trend starting to reveal itself here. When Kane takes off his mask, someone from the McMahons or the Helmsleys isn't too far away. Heading into the summer of 2014, and Kane was in the World Heavyweight Championship picture. After apparently disgracing the authority while taking part in a loss at WrestleMania 30, Stephanie McMahon told the Big Red Machine to find himself again, like this was 2003, and she was Raw General Manager Stone Cold Steve Austin. So off he went, and the mask returned. At that year's Battleground, Kane came up short in a four-way that also involved John Cena, Randy Orton, and Roman Reigns. That was won by the reigning champion, Large Bout Jonathan. Following that loss, Kane and Orton attacked Reigns before the Big Dog's scheduled match with the Big Red Machine, which led us to another suspicious unmasking with a McMahon and a Helmsley involved. During the next Raw, on August the 4th, Kane lost to Reigns in a last man standing match. Following the bout, Kane was seen entering Stephanie and Hunter's office, where he removed his mask and handed it to Stephanie, just like he had done on the stage a year earlier. The Queendom, where the devil's favorite demons bow down indeed. Following this, Kane returned to his role as the Authority's Director of Operations and lined up for their team at that year's Survivor Series, and all was horrible in the world again. Unmasked by Shawn Michaels at Crown Jewel 2018. Crown Jewel 2018 was an absolute hoot. Hulk Hogan made his return to WWE after 3 years away. Shane McMahon won a World Cup made up solely of Americans to crown himself the best professional wrestler in the world, and a main event was competed between 4 lads whose combined age was 206. The Brothers of Destruction versus D-Generation X, a match that was booked following the happens in another match called The Last Time Ever between The Undertaker and Triple H in Australia, which in turn happened 6.5 years after the end of an era. Hell in a Cell, by the way. But don't let that get in the way of a good story. A good story this was not. 28 minutes this went on for, and never before has 28 minutes felt like all 30 years of The Undertaker's illustrious career. Triple H's tit fell off the bone and everything else went downhill from there. And then the large turd on top of the really old and stale cake made itself known when Kane's mask fell fell off his head. Yes, our Glenn was on the middle rope with Shawn Michaels perched on the top turnbuckle. A few strikes later and Kane was down on the mat holding his face, with his head clearly exposed. Shawn Michaels punched Kane so hard his mask fell off, Michael Cole screamed, when in reality, Shawn grabbed the hair bit at the back of the mask a bit too hard and pulled it off himself. Even better still, a really impressive moonsault off the top rope to the floor by Michaels was marred slightly, as you can clearly see a maskless Kane receive a flailing leg to his poor head. I'm still sad this match happened. At least the lads got paid well for their exploits.